Hey guys, this is Josh from BLRS, and I thought I would make a video explaining the high post mechanism that was on the BLRS 24-inch robot Lofty. We got several questions about it while we were at Worlds and after Worlds, especially since it was such a funky looking mechanism and definitely was something that wasn't really seen on any other robots, just because we took such a unique approach to it. But I figured I'd go ahead and make a video about it. Please excuse the background. Right now we are just in the middle of setting up a field riser, so that's what all of this is. But anyways, I guess we can go ahead and get into it. Basically, this is the high post mechanism. This whole thing here. This is what it looks like when it's folded in and compacted. And what it is, to generalize it all, it is basically a 2 degree of freedom arm as well as a needle. And despite the complexity of the mechanism itself, it is all only powered off of one motor right here. And so you see there is if I release this up a little bit, this is the first joint here. This is the first arm. This is the second arm. So 2 degree freedom arm as well as a needle here. Let me set it back up again to go over basically all of what happens. We'll start with the process of what happens when actually the motor begins to spin. So we can see here, this is the axle that the one motor is driving. And basically you see we have basically 2 sets of strings here, and those are what allow this whole mechanism to unfold into the right position. That is how we are able to get such a complex motion with just a clever usage of string and winches and stuff like that. So the very first thing that happens when we begin to deploy this mechanism is you can see here on the very end, the needle flicks up. This is the actual needle mechanism. It is basically just a standoff that has been rubber banded around the side, and it is the way it folds out is it just gets pulled by this string. When this string has been pulled, that's when the rings are locked in, and when the string gets released, it pops up and allows the rings to come out freely. The way this happens is, move this back. The way this happens is that the string comes from the needle arm down and around all the way back to the axle that the motor is on. It goes around this standoff, and as the motor begins to spin, it releases the string. It falls off and basically allows this rubber band to pull it up. This is when we have the rings on it. Because this is coming down like that, it makes it a lot harder for the rings to come off during the match. It wasn't perfect. We still had a couple of times where rings would fall off during a match. You can see when this is down, they don't come off very easily. So that was the solution we had to keep the rings on, because they're in such an exposed spot out in the front of the robot. But it seemed to work pretty well. So after that, so it's all the way down again. When we begin to go up, oh, I think I messed it up. Oh yeah, I had it around this piece of metal here on accident. When this goes up, the needle deploys like that. And after that, this axle is going to continue rotating in the same direction, and this winch is going to begin to unwind and allow this first arm to come up. Because this arm is banded down here at the back, past the pivot point, it's going to start pulling it up this way. I'm controlling it mainly with the stick. Normally it's a button and it's just running at a constant speed, but having a joystick allows me to show it better. But as you see, as this is coming up, this standoff here, which is banded up like this, is going to begin coming up until it gets all the way past here. So you can see if I run it back again, it's going to, as the first stage arm goes up, that standoff is going to come up. And at this point is when the winch here has ran out of string. And so when it begins to continue rotating in the same direction, it's going to start pulling down now on the end of the arm. And because it's now that it's pulling down and that this standoff is up, this stage of the arm is no longer going to be able to keep coming down. And so instead, it's going to be pulling up on the top of this stage, because this is where the string is attached. It goes around this bend and is attached to the second stage of this arm. And so when it begins to pull down, it's going to start pulling the second stage up. However, because it has such a small lever arm around the end of this joint, the motor alone is not able to pull it all the way up. So we have a rubber band assist arm, which is this black half cut right here. You can see that it will start, because it is banded down over here and has a hinge right here, it's going to start assisting the motor by applying a force up this way on the arm, like that. So, oops. But anyways, so I'll do that again. Let me set it up again. So it's gonna lift up, gonna lock, and begin lifting up on the arm. And so yeah, this rubber band arm is just free floating by itself on the first stage arm. It's pretty simple. It's just got rubber bands pulling it down, and so it's applying tension up this way. One thing about this, there's actually a couple things about this rubber band tension arm, is that this is pretty awkward to fold up. Is that when the whole arm is all the way down, you actually are not able to, unless you physically push the end of the first stage arm all the way up and around, you're not going to be able to get it to accidentally fire or anything like that, because this side of the rubber band assist arm is actually not able to come down at all because it hits the motor. And it doesn't have the same amount of tension as it does when it's all the way up, because as the first stage arm goes up, this distance begins to grow a little bit. And so when it's all the way at the top, it has more tension than it did when it was down here. And so it's going to be assisting even more, and allow the motor to pull it all the way over to the end. And so that is basically everything that happens with this mechanism. However, this would not be consistent if we were not able to get the mobile goal into the same position every time. And the way we do that is with the with this platform up here. It's almost kind of looks like a second ring hood. This is the actual ring hood, but this is for the mobile goal. When the mobile goal sits in the goal rush mechanism, the branches of the bottom branch basically sit like this. We have one side raised higher than the other so that the end of it can be slightly angled to help with a better transfer. And the plastic here allows the branches to basically slide around a little bit. If it gets if it comes in at the wrong angle, it can adjust pretty easily. And so that's how we get the mobile goal into position, and how we get the rings up from the front of the robot all the way up and around to the end. So this is kind of what it looks like when it's extended. I'll go ahead and show I need to go get those rings. What the full motion looks like with the rings. Okay, so we're ready. We have our rings. We have our mobile goal in the right position. If we go to score the rings, we're going to activate the motor, and it's going to go just like that. And the rings just fall on there. The needle kind of helps to keep the rings from falling off if we are still driving around a little bit, because this needle kind of stays here. The rings don't come off very easily. But yeah, it's actually surprisingly consistent, just about every time. However, there's lots of times in matches where if we don't notice that the branches aren't sitting right, that the mobile goal isn't, if we don't notice that the mobile goal is in the right spot, then obviously the post isn't going to be aligned, and then it's going to miss. And also a couple of things that we noticed at Worlds was that the branches would often not be 90 degrees from each other, and that would kind of mess with it. And because if it's not perfectly 90, then obviously the end of the branch will be too far this way or too far that way. But we thankfully did not run into that problem too much. But most of the times that we ran this in a match, it hit. I might show us a couple match videos, a couple clips from some matches at Worlds where this hit. But that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck in spin up.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, 4, 3. I was kind of scared that was gonna.
Ladies and gentlemen, the post goes mobile goals on the platform.